Okay, so we're on the road still to home, our new home in Jemez, Pueblo, and the drive's going well. We got up at like 4 or something this morning and left before 6, so we've got just under 7 hours left. We're taking it pretty slow. But anyway, I thought that I would start sort of catching up on some of the topics and answers to questions that people have asked us a lot about moving off grid and how the process works. So I think we'll just go ahead and probably record a few rambling videos on things that we've done to get to this point where we're actually moving to the land. So how did we find our land and why New Mexico? I know for Sarah, she had been dreaming of envisioning herself in New Mexico for 20 some years probably, and it always felt like a spiritual place and energetically just a place that she was drawn to for a number of reasons. I think when we got together, we had actually, the first time we met in person was at an off-grid Airbnb in New Mexico. It was a halfway point. I was in California, she was in Oklahoma, and it was like a Thursday night last June where I was talking about just flying to go see her the next day to give her a hug in Oklahoma, and Sarah thought, well, why don't we drive and meet halfway, which would be somewhere in New Mexico, and that way we can bring our dogs. And we found the most perfect off-grid Airbnb that looked, we could tell just from the pictures that it was built for us. And it was in Cerrillos, New Mexico, which is close to Madrid and in between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. So anyway, that was at like midnight, and we both got a couple hours of sleep, got on the road, and started off to meet each other halfway in this off-grid little paradise in Cerrillos. So we had the most amazing little vacation. There was like a long weekend, and while we were there, I just kind of got this vision, and I was like, I don't know, I could see us being here and doing this, like living off grid and eventually having animals and being free. And so Sarah, who had envisioned living off grid for many years and had done it prior when she converted the bus to an RV tiny home and was living in it, she had experience and a lot of the skills to do that. And also, I had always sort of halfway joked about creating a moon colony where I was going to take all my favorite people or people I'd met on my life journey who seemed to have specific skills and kind of fulfilled a certain role energetically, could be part of this moon colony. So it's kind of like a commune type of idea, I guess, that I had always dreamed about and thought seemed really natural and aligned for my soul purpose. And I never really thought I'd have the skills, or I just didn't know the how that would ever happen or be able to manifest. And of course, that's because it's the universe's realm is conducting the hows. As humans, we can set an intention or create an idea, a thought, and have a belief about what we will create, and the universe does the hows. And so by Sarah and I meeting, we knew that this was kind of part of our path, that we were going to be able to manifest both of our dreams together, which is maximum freedom and being happy and joyous. So that's a long way of saying like a little bit about how New Mexico became an idea and how off-grid living became the thing for both of us. And so after that stay in Cerrillos, we started just kind of looking. Sarah had, again, for years been looking in New Mexico, and she hadn't ever pulled the trigger. Timing just didn't ever feel quite right. And we know now why that was. It was all meant to be in this timing and when we were right vibrationally for this type of shift. And so we were looking at parcels in Cerrillos, close toward, to the Airbnb that we had stayed, because we knew we loved that. And there were only about 3 parcels of land available. And back in October, when we were going to be leaving California, heading out to Oklahoma to stay and see our families for the holidays, we decided we would go stop in Albuquerque, stay with my mom, Kari, and then go look at a couple of the properties that we thought would be a really great fit. And it was interesting because that morning, as we were getting ready to go out to the property, I had an intuition that was just like, it was no. It was like, this isn't going to be it. And I was like, what? But I knew enough about the way life works and unfolds when I surrender to the universe and get out of my own way with my will and my ego. Things always work out, and always work out better than I ever could have imagined or designed on my own. And so I thought that was interesting. And turns out Sarah also had a similar intuition that morning. We didn't tell each other, but we were driving out to the properties to see them, and it was just kind of clear that the access, the roads, it was really hard to get to, and it felt like we were going to be out there where we could not, it just wasn't accessible, and it didn't feel right energetically. And so we left feeling like kind of bummed, but also I knew that if that wasn't the place, that the universe was going to lead us to something even greater and had more than what we could even imagine. And so it was really interesting. We just stayed, we allowed ourselves to feel a little bit like bummed and be like uncertain about what the next thing was. But as I also know, then we just do some footwork and then get out of the way again. And so we went back to my mom's place in Albuquerque, and that was actually on my birthday, my 39th birthday, October 24th of 2024. And we went back to the apartment, and we thought, we have one more day here. Let's just see what else is available online in New Mexico. We use a landsearch.com, was usually the search engine that we use to find parcels of available off-grid property for sale. And so Sarah found these parcels in this place called Jemez Pueblo, and she showed me there were a number of 10-acre parcels for sale, and she showed me a picture, and it was in this gorgeous Red Rock area, stunning views. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, okay. So we decided we'd go out and see the property the next morning. And some of the criteria that we were looking for was beautiful views. Obviously, we wanted enough land where it would feel private and we'd have some room to grow. So around 10 acres was kind of what we were looking for. And the price range was higher out in the Jemez Valley, than in the Cerrillos area. But given the beauty of it and how spectacular it was, we were like, okay, it's definitely worth a shot to at least look. We wanted to be, so roads, like easily accessible. We knew that we would have to have, some type of going off the beaten path, but wanted roads that would be pretty accessible for most days out of the year. We knew that there could be some rain and snow and things too that might create some days where we can't really get out. But again, wanted to be close enough to a main road and a village or town and ultimately city that was accessible. And so the Jemez is about an hour and 15 minutes from my mom's house in the middle of Albuquerque, and it's only 45 minutes to Rio Rancho, which has got all of the things that you want, the restaurants, hotels, everything. And then there's our little town, Jemez Springs, which is a super quaint little town. Tourists come, and there's a lot of natural things, people who want to experience the outdoors. The caldera, which was a volcanic site, it is an inactive volcanic site, crater, that's close by and has a lot of amazing nature. And then with the Pueblo and the indigenous culture and history, there's so much there. So we'll do another video just talking about that, probably many on that. But we were looking, so spatially and where it was located, seemed right for us, at least a great possibility. And we also wanted to be able to drill for a well eventually, and we wanted land that had buildable space without having to do too much in terms of hauling and leveling. And we just needed to be able to build on it. And so we went out and visited the property that next day, and we went first to lot 15. We had kind of wanted lot 17. Sarah's lucky number is 17, and we thought that we would maybe want that one just because of the number on it. But we started with lot 15 when we went to visit, and we stood there, like, it was just incredible. Like, oh my gosh, we couldn't even believe that this was there. And right off of about 8 minutes off the road from Highway 4 on Camino Amarillo, which was also a little sign for us, because Camino Amarillo is the yellow road, and Yellow Brick Road and the Wizard of Oz have special significance to both of us too. So we pay attention to different synchronicities and God winks, as some people call them, or God shots, where the universe is kind of giving the green light and that you're on the right path. And so anyway, we were on lot 15, and we stood in this one place where we were like overlooking this amazing valley and just otherworldly views. And we were like, we could totally see us having our house right here. And anyway, so we left there, spent some time that day. My mom went up with us. The dogs were there. We also looked at lot 17, but it was a little harder to access. And so we were really pretty much right away just gravitating towards lot 15, Camino Amarillo. And we felt like it had all of the pieces of the things we were looking for: access to the necessities within half an hour, a big city or bigger city and airport within about an hour, and then also off far enough where you feel like you're out there and have some privacy and freedom. And so we had a really strong feeling about it when we left that day, and we carried on our travels up to Oklahoma, where we stayed for until Christmas, or after Christmas, and went up and stayed in Denver with my family. But we kept looking and started to research, and had gotten in touch with a few realtors in the area, and we're just asking questions, things like, at first we thought about fire insurance and looked at the floodplains and what are the natural elements that could factor into our safety. And so we thought a lot about those things, and we're in a really great area, sweet spot that's like close enough to a river, and it's high desert, so we're not in alpine, and we're not in an area that's in immediate risk of fire. On our property, there's some juniper and juniper and pinyon, and those are they almost look more like bushes than trees or anything, but it's desert, and there's not a fire risk to our property. And again, with having the river close by and some arroyos, there's water features and things that were just perfect. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I should say about Jemez Springs and Pueblo, as we were driving to the property that first time we saw at the bottom of the hill before we turn off on our road, there was Rose Integrative Health. It was a building there and had a sign, and so we looked up what that was, and it was totally our type of people who are holistic healers and into sound baths and all sorts of different healing modalities. And we knew that our people were going to be there. I mean, that's, what we do. And so we felt really good about that, and the whole area of Jemez Springs too, with the natural hot springs for millennia. Indigenous cultures have set up around springs because of their healing properties and the minerals and different contents of the natural springs were healing. And so this is nothing new, that people have communed around water and found healing there and set up civilizations and all sorts of things. But it's a really special place energetically, especially with the water there and the contents of the minerals and everything in it. So that led to people knowing, or like understanding those properties and wanting to be there and do all sorts of healing things. And so there's a Zen Buddhist property or commune and a lot of retreat areas, more things that we have to explore. But people often, a lot of artists, writers, musicians have traveled to the area to find solace and some solitude and tap into their higher selves there. So I think I'd heard a story of Leonard Cohen spent some time out in Jemez Springs in that area writing. So there's a lot there, and people, I think, who are in tune with their highest self and or trying to get there, seeking, it's a space for that feels really open and available for people who want to tap in. So that's a little bit more about how we chose the property. We ultimately looked at several ways to finance, and we thought that the property was originally listed as seller financing available. And once we decided to make an offer, we made an offer with the seller financing available. The seller came back and decided they didn't want to do that. So we looked at some other things, ultimately decided to pay in cash because we don't want to owe anything to anybody, and especially with mortgage companies and banks, and part of what we're doing is unsubscribing from those systems. And so it felt good and aligned after having explored the other options to do it and pay cash that we had available through savings that we had acquired from getting ourselves free from debt in just about the year prior. So anyway, we had looked at other areas, but once we visited that property, specifically lot 15, Camino Amarillo in Jemez Pueblo, we knew that kind of instinctually that was our place. And we did a few things over the course of October, November, and start of December. We've been researching, like I said, and even thought for a minute, well, maybe the price tag seemed a little bit high, so maybe we were going to look in Colorado or other places, and we did a little bit of that. We explored also, thought about California and Joshua Tree, and maybe that would be easier. We knew we loved Joshua Tree, but after looking at the regulations and all of the things that you need for permitting just to even get established out there, it was like very quickly led us back to New Mexico and the area, specifically in Jemez Pueblo, Jemez Springs. So we decided that we were going to make an offer after we drove back down once more after Christmas up in Denver. We left there and drove down to Albuquerque to again stay with my mom and check out the land and just make sure that, yeah, it was feeling like it felt the first time. After we had more questions answered about the process and acquiring off-grid land and how that all works. So yeah, we went back and again, we just felt, yeah, this is it. And that was December 31st that we went back out there and just knew that that's what we wanted to do. So we were going to put an offer on the land. First, we wanted to contact a building company to see how, if we could put up like a steel metal building, and just with the condition of our road, doesn't require a high clearance vehicle. My vehicle is an SUV, a small compact Kia Sportage that can make it up the road. So we just kind of wanted to know, like, is it possible to bring trucks up there and have someone build something for us that was within a price range that we felt comfortable with. And so that's a whole other process. But once we kind of knew that we could build something there were companies available that could help us build a metal shop-like building, or barn dominium as some people call it. We pulled the trigger and we submitted that offer first with the thought that seller would finance, but then came back that wasn't an option, and so we made another offer, all cash, that was ultimately accepted, and that was in January 2025. And so from there, we've started the process of the building and getting things going, and we'll explain more in future videos about all that stuff. But we chose New Mexico ultimately for a whole lot of reasons, but the freedom that it offers, the natural beauty, the energy, very much the energy that is there. It's a feeling, and they don't call it the land of enchantment for nothing. It's definitely, it has a vibe. People are encouraged, I think, to be individuals and a little quirky, and we love that. And people aren't really trying to be in your biz, but they also are neighborly and helpful. And so for a lot of reasons, it was home. It was always going to be home, and our future selves, our higher selves, kind of knew that, I think, a long time ago. And we are really excited about the whole area, the community, and the direction that we're moving towards. So if I think of anything else, I'll put it in maybe the comments or something about the factors of how we chose where we did. That was quite a rambling little video, but hopefully some of it makes sense and y'all can know why we chose the place that we did.